Hello, and welcome to Bitesized Podcast. I'm your host, Andali. Bitesized Podcast is a holistic nutrition podcast for pregnancy, postpartum, and baby starting solids, with some sprinkles of special guests to further educate you on all of the options available to support you on this journey. Since we went over cesarean birth recovery, I also wanted to share about vaginal birth recovery. So today we're going over some recommendations for vaginal birth recovery, and we have another birth story to share. So while the last few months of pregnancy are often spent focused on the final touches for a baby's arrival, it's also important to put some thought into some postpartum essentials for recovery as well. While you might already be thinking about meals or have a meal train or some family members who are prepared to bring you meals, there are some other things that are definitely less glamorous than cute onesies and wonderful meals. Should you find yourself needing any of these, you're going to be so glad you have them. So first of all, I would encourage you to get on those meals. We mentioned in our recovery from a cesarean episode that nutrient-dense meals are so important in aiding recovery. That also goes for vaginal births. I hope you have a couple freezer meals prepared, but I mostly hope your friends and family are cooking up a storm for you. Aside from that, there are some things you might want to look into purchasing to help you recover at home. Number 1, a sitz bath. Sitz baths encourage circulation, which can help reduce swelling and speed healing after birth. It's also often a good time for mothers to slow down and relax to soothe postpartum discomfort from any tearing, an episiotomy, stitches, perineal bruising, bleeding, or hemorrhoids. You can also include herbs in your sitz bath, as many herbs have been known to have healing properties and been known to soothe. You can use herbs in any combination. Here are some herbs to consider. Calendula. Calendula has shown to have anti-inflammatory and antiviral properties. Lavender. Not only is lavender known to have calming properties, but it has also been shown to increase collagen and proteins involved in tissue remodeling. Red raspberry leaf. While the tea is known to stimulate uterine contractions, including it in your sitz bath can alleviate inflammation and water retention, so it may help swelling go down. Yarrow. Hopefully I'm saying that right. When applied to the skin, yarrow can help reduce inflammation and heal wounds as it is rich in antioxidants. Comfrey. Comfrey contains a substance that helps new skin cells grow as well as reduce inflammation. Comfrey ointments can also help heal bruising, pulled ligaments, or muscles. Oatmeal can also be used to ease itching, which can happen with stitches. Alternatively, if you don't want to use herbs, you can also use Epsom salts. Epsom salts also reduce swelling and encourage healing. A dedicated sitz bath can be purchased from a pharmacy or medical supply store. It fits over top of the toilet, so you can use it at any point, and it serves that purpose only. Alternatively, you can use your bathtub by filling it with about 3 inches of water and adding any herbs or Epsom salts. You'll just want to make sure that your tub is ultra clean to avoid infection, so get your partner those rubber gloves and tell them to start scrubbing. Moving on to another recovery remedy, witch hazel. Witch hazel is very soothing and can help reduce inflammation. It's also an antiseptic and helps fight bacteria to reduce infection. Witch hazel can also help stop minor bleeding and provide relief for hemorrhoids. You can use witch hazel by soaking cotton pads and applying or using a spray bottle to apply to the area. It can also be used in a peri bottle. Which brings me to my next recovery essential, peri bottles. Peri bottles are an incredible resource for recovering from vaginal births. Filled with warm water and, like I said, optional witch hazel, I'd recommend using it to rinse after any time you pee as opposed to toilet paper, as many women find toilet paper irritating after birth in the early days. It can also be used to clean or rinse wounds. In the same vein, padsicles are also an amazing option to help you heal. Not only are those amazing postpartum maternity pads everyone's favorite postpartum essential, but in this case are made into a padsicle. They are saturated with a solution like some of the ones we've talked about to help provide some pain relief, reduce inflammation, and soothe swollen tissue. They can also ease discomfort from hemorrhoids. So aside from some of the solutions we've discussed, we can also use aloe gel that's free from artificial dyes and preservatives. To learn more about making a padsicle, stay tuned to the Bitesized Instagram account at bitesized.podcast. Another one we discussed in cesarean recovery was homeopathic arnica. Again, I would encourage you to consult a naturopath on this one, as arnica is not to be mixed with certain medications, so you have to be careful. Homeopathic arnica can help minimize strain on soft tissue to help recovery. It also has been said to help after pains, which is the uterus contracting after birth. Now lastly, a donut. While I wish I was talking about the kind you eat, I am not. Sometimes stitches or sitting can cause discomfort on the perineal area. If this is the case, a donut or even a breastfeeding pillow can help ease this. Whatever you end up using or wherever you end up sitting, be sure to use an absorbent bed pad or additional sheets to wash to prevent staining if leaking occurs. Now I hope that your recovery goes well and smooth and easy breezy beautiful, cover girl, but in the case it may not, these are some symptoms to watch for that might indicate you need to seek medical attention. A fever of over 38 degrees Celsius or 100.4 Fahrenheit, if you've soaked a pad in less than an hour or two past a clot larger than a golf ball, or your bleeding has turned red after having been brown for a few days, if there is new pain or swelling, if there is new or worsening belly pain, tenderness in the arms or legs, painful peeing, headaches or vision changes, severe or persistent hemorrhoid pain, any of the above, please seek medical attention. So now that you know a little more about recovering from a vaginal birth, I want to introduce Jasmine. You might know her from her Instagram at lemons.for.days or her new side hustle, Unity Kids Co. Let's hear her birth story. Welcome, Jasmine, to Bitesized podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, all the things you love.
My first love are my kids. I've got 3 under the age of 7. Second love would probably be my husband and coffee. And I live in Calgary. I'm an influencer, content creator, call me what you want. I've been doing that for 7 years and work from home so I can be with the kiddos as much as possible. Love to travel, and I'm happy that that's kind of coming back. And
excellent. Well, we're happy to have you here, and you're going to be sharing a little bit about your birth story, specifically of vaginal birth.
Yeah. And I love that we're talking about this because I had this moment the other day. I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember which one though. But they were talking about, breastfeeding and just kind of like that coming to a close. And I was like, my goodness, like, I hope I remember it. I hope I remember my birth. I hope I remember my experiences as intense as they were. They're so beautiful. And like, I want a space to really be able to talk about it and hold it. And now I'm here and it's wonderful. So thank you for allowing me to share my experience. Ask me any questions. I don't even know where to start.
Well, let's start with your first birth. Talk us through a little bit about what your pregnancy looked like and like the care providers you chose, anything like that.
This was in the end of 2015. I got pregnant and gave birth in 2016 to my first son, who is now 7. And so I was completely naive and had no plans for much of anything, but this is also how I like to live my life. I don't give it too much thought. I just kind of like go with, what my gut is telling me. So my husband and I were like, hey, I guess now is the time. Let's start making babies. And so we did. And we're so fortunate that it happened beautifully and quickly. And then I didn't give really much thought into what the birth would look like. But my sister-in-law had just had a baby and told me about her amazing experience with a midwife and said, if you're going to have kids anytime soon, like this, I highly recommend going the midwifery route. And so I did. I put down my name like as soon as I found out I was pregnant and got matched with a beautiful midwife that ended up delivering all 3 of my babies. Yeah, we were so fortunate to have her at all 3. And I also was not considering or even knew that a home birth was an option until again, my sister-in-law was like, we took this course and it's called Healthy Birth Choices in Calgary. And she said, it just kind of normalizes it for you because it's just such a new experience. Nobody really talks about these things. It's for you and your partner to go and just be aware of what might happen. And so we took this course and she started talking about home births. And that was the first kind of introduction I had to home births. And I thought that it made a lot of sense for us because I was a low risk pregnancy.
Yeah, I think it's great that you just wanted to be super educated about your options, because that's always what I hope for women, is that whatever choice they made is like the most educated choice they could have made. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And I was, completely open to everything. Like I said, I was really, honestly, just naive, like in a cute way, but I just kind of open, to hearing all of the options. And then that's the one that felt right. And the thing that sat so well with me was just knowing that, for past generations, this has been the most natural thing we could do. So why not do it in the comfort of your own home? And so that's why I decided, let's give this a try. And there's always, we live in the city, and if we had to, a hospital bag was packed, and we were also ready for that to happen, but it didn't.
That's incredible. I think too, like, midwifery has definitely become a little bit more popular, I guess. And I know it's a little bit harder to get on these lists. So that's amazing that you were able to. And I know that once you've had a midwife, they're so happy to like reaccommodate the future births as well. Mm-hmm. So you had a very healthy, normal pregnancy. And then walk us through a little bit. What did labor look like? When did you know you were in labor? Where were you? All of the things.
Yeah, I was in denial for a lot of it, because it was new. And I had been kind of told from my midwives and in these classes that I was taking, your first labor is going to be long. What you think is labor is not. When you think this is happening, it's probably not happening. And like, don't get too excited. So I had this in my mind, and I'm like, okay. So the day I went into labor, my husband and I decide we're going to do a Costco run and do all of the meal prep. And I had been off of work for just a week. And I had 3 more weeks until my due date. So I thought, let's do meal prep. Let's get everything all organized for baby. And so we did this Costco run and brought all the groceries home. And my husband said, he's a photographer, and he said, I think we should do map photos soon. Like, let's just like remember this. Why don't we take the afternoon and drive out to the mountains and we'll do a little photo shoot? And I was like, okay. So we hopped in the car with this camera and tripod, and then we're taking photos at a few different locations. And the last location, he said, okay, I'm going to set up the tripod because I want to be in one of the photos. And I was like, okay, great. While you do that, I'm going to go pee. And so I just decided to go pee in the woods because that's where we were. And I was wearing a dress, and I squatted down to go pee, and I felt a pop. And I was like, oh, that felt kind of funny. And anyway, completed what I needed to do. And then I stood up and I looked down and I looked over at my husband and I said, I'm still peeing, but I'm done peeing. It's like, what's happening? And he's like, did your water just break? And I was like, no, it's way too early for that. And then, we were just kind of standing there in disbelief, trying to figure out what was happening. And he said, well, let's just pack up and like drive back to Calgary. We were in the mountains with no reception as well. So he's like, let's just get to a place where we can contact somebody.
For anyone who's like listening who maybe is not familiar with Alberta, living in Calgary, the mountains tend to be an hour plus away. So it's a bit of a drive for sure.
Yeah. And I got in the car and I was still leaking fluid, and going like, I have nothing to sit on. What do I do? And I remember this so well. My husband pulled out of the glove box some mucho burrito napkins, like 2 of them. And he said, down here. And I was like, okay. So through within like 2 seconds. And then just kind of accepted it. And I was in so much denial that I actually, when we got back into cell reception, I didn't contact my midwife. I instead contacted my sister-in-law and said, hey, I don't think I can take her son. I think I could take him to the zoo tomorrow because I don't know what's happening. She said, oh my God, that's exciting. What did your midwife say? And I said, oh, I don't want to bother her. And she's like, hang up the phone and call her right now. And I was like, maybe I'll email her. So I emailed her. This is what happened. I don't know if it's anything. I might just be peeing a lot with no control. And she said, come. Anyway, and she called me seconds after I sent the email, and she said, come into the clinic right now. Did. She tested for amniotic fluid, and it was. And she's like, yep, this is the beginning of your labor. Congrats. Like, get ready to meet your baby by maybe tomorrow. And so we were still in shock and didn't really have too many feelings at the time. Just kind of, are you sure? Like, am I dreaming right now? Like, we still have all these groceries that we haven't cooked anything. I was like, how can a baby come when I'm not prepared? And so she just said, go home, have something to eat, and try and sleep because things are going to be happening soon. And I was like, okay. So we went home, and I within like an hour, I would say, I started having contractions. And my husband kept asking me, should I call the midwife? And I kept saying, no, I know it's going to get a lot worse than this. Don't bother her. It's late. And then he was like, I don't know. And then I knew this from like doing homework, but I wasn't willing to accept it. But I was in transition, just throwing up everywhere and just like shaking, and it's been full on labor. And he said, I think it's time to call the midwife. Like, I'm no longer going to ask you. I'm just going to do it. And so we did.
You didn't get that nap in?
No, absolutely not. I tried to watch a show, but I was like, well, no, everything was bothering me at the time. You know, and I couldn't focus on anything except to breathe and puke. And then our midwife came over shortly after that. She checked me and said, you're fully dilated. Next, after this contraction, we're going to walk down the hallway and have everything set up in your bedroom, and we're going to start pushing. And so that's what we did.
Wow. So did you have a pool set up, or were you just on the bed?
I decided not to do a pool because I don't know. The thought of it just didn't actually bring me any ease. I don't know. I decided it's also a lot of work.
That's fair. Yes, I feel like I've heard they take a long time to fill up. So
that's fair. Make my bed. We'll try it over there. Yeah.
Perfect.
So, and
then how long thereafter did your baby come?
It was 20 minutes of pushing. And then the labor from start to finish was 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Wow. So that's probably pretty quick compared to what you had been expecting and been told.
Totally. And I think that's why I was in so much denial up until she came, and then baby was like there, because I was like, no, I am supposed to be in labor for days on it. This can't be it. And like, I heard so many stories of, your water breaks, and then you've got to be careful that maybe baby doesn't come for another couple of weeks.
So after baby arrived, what was like the atmosphere like? What were you feeling?
So calm. It was one of those moments where, because our midwife was there with her assistant, and then it was my husband and I and our new baby. We're the only people in the world that know of his existence. And that was so special. And it happened at 1:00 in the morning. And I was just like, I want to hold on to this, and I can because it's the 1 a.m. And so we're going to try and get some sleep. And then like, it was just so calm because it was just like this, it's such a sacred time that I don't think I'll ever experience again, right? Our midwives packed up and they said, we'll check on you tomorrow. And I actually got a good amount of sleep. My husband didn't sleep a wink. He was staring at the baby, like so close to his bassinet, going like, is he still breathing? What's happening? Just, yeah, it was really special, really special. I hope I never forget that feeling.
That's incredible. And so the recovery thereafter, what did that look like? And sort of how long did it take until you kind of felt back to normal? Or were you like, this is just how I am now?
I don't know if like normalcy ever came back, to be honest, because it was just like, this is my new life. But there was no, I'm even thinking now, like I don't think I'll ever know that time before. So I would just kind of accepted this is what it is. We're going to take it day by day. The first couple of days was like cloud nine. We had many visitors stop in and friends drop things off, and it was really special. I went for my first walk outside with him, he was 2 days old, and the little wrap. And then the third or fourth day, my husband had to go for a very quick shoot, and he was gone for maybe 40 minutes. In that time, my son's umbilical cord started to kind of come off, and it started bleeding. And like a little part of it started bleeding, and that sent me spiraling. And I was like, oh, I was warned about this. I kept telling myself, I was like, no, these are hormones. This is what's supposed to happen. It's fine. Like, you've been super happy on cloud nine for so long. Like, I think this is when you're supposed to be sad and like not make any sense. And so I was kind of talking to myself in the third party, but also freaking out and calling the midwife and saying, he's bleeding everywhere. And so we rode those waves for a while. And I think that is totally normal. I tried to get outside as much as I could, knowing that my body was tired. But that's all I could do.
So you mentioned you had a lot of guests come over. Tell us some things that your guests maybe specifically did for you that just made recovery that much easier or wonderful, or just like added to the goodness of that time.
In terms of gifts, I received many, but the ones that were the most impactful and the most helpful, the first was my mother-in-law, who is actually here right now taking care of my other babies. She hired a cleaner for us and said, you can kind of just use her whenever, but like I recommend like once every 2 weeks or whatever. And that was an incredible help. And I had never had a cleaner before. And I was like, I felt guilty at first, but I was like, this is an amazing gift. And then another one, I would just say snacks, ready to eat snacks. Some girlfriends dropped off energy balls and like some chia pudding, like just for little breakfast and snacks, because you're kind of hungry all the time and you don't want like that curry that you made in your meal prep phase for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was nice to have those kinds of options. But I would say those were the most helpful, practical. Nothing to do with the baby.
No, those are really good. I have to say, when you're recovering and trying to keep a newborn alive, I think cleaning is definitely the last thing you want to do. You're so right. Especially if you're breastfeeding, the hunger is kind of insatiable. So those snacks are definitely key. What kind of advice would you give to someone, or words of encouragement to someone who wants to maybe have a midwife or experience a home birth as well.
Yeah. And to your point of midwives, like kind of being harder to access, I don't know where most of your listeners are, but in Alberta, if it is anything like the last couple of years, I don't know if it's changed or they've opened up a little bit more budget. I hope that they have, but it is difficult to get a midwife. So the first thing I would say is even before you get pregnant, some clinics offer like I forget what it's called now, but you essentially go in there to make sure that your body is ready. And they ask you a bunch of questions. They kind of like guide you in supplements. And when you do that, you're already in their system. And so when you apply to all of the midwife clinics around the city, your name is already in the system, and it's more likely that they will accept you as a client. The second thing is the moment you know, and maybe tell your partner first, maybe not. But the second thing you should do is apply. So those are my two pieces of advice. So even before you get pregnant, it's called like a preconception visit or something like that. And then for home births, this course honestly just put me at ease. And I don't think that I would do a very good job of convincing anyone, nor do I think it's my place. Because honestly, where I think people should give birth where they're comfortable. And for many, they feel safe in the environment of, a hospital or maybe a birthing center. And in my case, it was at home. So I'm not going to try and convince anybody to do anything along those lines. But if you are interested in a home birth, doing a course like I did, which was just like a pregnancy preparation kind of thing, or a labor preparation. It was called Healthy Birth Choices. And I think they offer an online option as well. Just getting comfortable with that is all I'll say.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's really excellent advice about getting into midwife care and, helping people get educated on their options for sure. Well, Jasmine, thank you so much for sharing. I would love to have you on again to share about your other two births at some point.
Yeah, I would love to.
For now, tell the people where they can find you. And I believe you have a little side business as well.
Yeah, I have my main personal page, the one that I've mentioned. I've been on Instagram doing the influencer thing for 7 years. That one is at Lemons for Days on Instagram and TikTok. But I don't. We're not sure about TikTok these days. And then I did just launch a business about 2 months ago called Unity Kids. And it's a virtues project for littles. And so each week we focus on one virtue. So say generosity or kindness or humility. And then we provide you with affirmations to practice that virtue and some checklists that are really kid-friendly and fun and engaging for your little ones.
I work at a preschool. And so especially after COVID, I've found a lot of the kids really, I don't know, I think just having less interaction the last few years and then now getting back in the full swing of things, those affirmations are so key. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think most people's businesses come from, their personal experiences and saying like, I wish I had this. And it's your point, going back into the real world with 3 kids after COVID, I needed this. And so this was something I provided for my kids and then saw that there was a need elsewhere. So,
well, thank you so much, Jasmine, for being here, and we'll chat again soon.
Don't forget to follow her at lemons.for.days and check out her new company, Unity Kids Co. Don't forget, I have some great discount codes for you. Needed is a wonderful supplement company. I suggest their prenatal vitamin, which again, you should continue into recovery and into breastfeeding. You can use my code Bitesized for 20% off your order. Now, you might not be thinking baby number 2 yet, and this is where Ovry comes in. Ovry is a great place to shop for your ovulation strip tests, pregnancy tests, and male fertility tests. You can use my code Bitesized10 for 10% off your order. Don't forget to find us on Instagram at bitesized.podcast for more. Thank you so much for joining us at the dinner table today. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And in case no one has told you today, you look radishing. Bye! Although I am a certified holistic nutrition consultant, I am not your consultant. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not always specific to you and your needs. While I strive to provide you the most up-to-date and accurate information about nutrition, this is not a substitute for professional and medical advice, and you should not rely solely on the information herein.